Welcome back to DHRE Live with my co-host Sean Sabina, and the wonderful Lindsay Grice is here with us. Welcome, Lindsay.
Hello.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hello.
So this is our second agent interview. So you are number two, not because you were number two. You were actually the number one agent in the brokerage last year. And I gotta say, you're probably one of, if not my favorite story for the real estate brokerage.
Yes.
And I talk about you all the time when I'm recruiting and stuff. And for multiple reasons. And we'll probably get into some of that today. But anyways, we wanted to bring you on and hear about your awesome story and go from there. So
I have to be honest with you. Last time I asked Jeremy questions, I'm actually just intrigued in hearing her story because I know a lot of it, a bit of at least the real estate stuff. So I just want to hear it. So,
well, with that getting started, Lindsay, why real estate?
I was in the service industry for like 10 years. And if you could align the service industry with a Pokemon, like your final form is being a real estate agent.
my son just fell in love.
Yeah, it's like host, server, bartender, back to being a server, real estate agent.
Yeah, I mean, the service industry does create a lot of real estate professionals, and I would say any real sales industry. We came from wireless, Sean and I. I mean,
I actually had bartending / busboy / server history before T-Mobile.
It's all customer service.
I don't think people trusted me around food, so
I still don't trust you around food.
Okay, so you were serving, right? Then bartending.
Yeah, I quit drinking. And when you quit drinking, it's hard to be a bartender and quit drinking. So that's why I went back to being a server. And I was like 28, 27, and I was like, wow, I mean, like, at least if people are going to yell at me, I want to make more money for it. If everything's my fault all the time, at least I want to make more money for it. It's the same, a lot of problem solving and putting out fires and managing other people, like you're like, hey, where's my salad? And it's just like, hey, where are my tax certs?
Were you one of those servers that could like listen to somebody's order and not write it down?
If you were maybe you could tell when you would, and even now with clients, like an uncomplicated table. So if you're an uncomplicated table of like a 2 or maybe a 4 top, yes. But if you were like out of the gate, you wanted soda water and lime or tea, I was like, I better write this down.
I better get the notepad.
Yeah. If you're a tea person, when you go out to eat, just know that your server hates you. Sorry, it's true and it's universal.
I'm a big substitution. I don't like tomatoes or whatever. And I'm always blown away when somebody takes my order and doesn't write it down. I'm like, that's definitely coming back with some issues. And it rarely ever does. Those people that don't write it down, they get it right.
Where did we go? I was with you one time and you did that and it was completely wrong.
Oh, was it? I don't remember that.
Yep.
It's a risky move. Yeah. You have really good working short-term memory, which I had somewhat, but
had.
It's gone now. I'm in my 30s. I'm so
I was gonna say, when did that leave?
Well, now I have like a rolling to-do list on. Oh, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. Rolling to-do list on my phone to make sure that I remember things. But I mean, it's the same chaos, except you don't get to like walk out of the restaurant and it's over.
It just follows you everywhere.
That for sure. I miss like, oh, I'm clocked out. I might have a thought like, oh my God, I forgot their ranch. But like now I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to send something to title. No, I don't ever do that.
I sure hope not. You close a lot of transactions.
Yeah.
That never happens ever.
So what year was it when you got your real estate license or started taking your classes at least?
I took my classes in 2018. So it wasn't just straight out of the service industry. I took my classes in 2018 and I was waitressing, and I realized that the best shifts waitressing were the times when people wanted to go look at houses. So evenings and weekends. So I was like, all right, I have to like take a step back to take a step forward. So I started a cleaning business, and I kind of just ironically, my license got dusty, and it took me an entire year to really build out the cleaning company enough because I could leave my cleaners to clean. If I had to go show houses, I could take calls where I couldn't do that when I was on the floor. Most people don't want you cleaning their houses on nights and weekends. So it worked out really well. And then I got into post-construction cleaning. And that's actually how I made a lot of the real estate connections that I have today was through my cleaning company. Because I remember, I think it was Matt Simmons was like, "Oh, you do great." I was like, "Oh, thanks." He's like, "Yeah, you show up and don't smoke cigarettes in the house." I was like, "That's the bar."
That's the bar.
That's the bar. I was like, "Wow, I am great." Awesome.
So you, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was a long time ago. You went to Caldwell Banker first.
Yeah, I never did anything there. I
Okay,
never
so that's where
even,
you hung your
Just
license.
hung a
yeah.
license.
And
Okay.
yeah, and then I dusted it off and brought it here.
Well, you met somebody. We're not going to talk names or anything, but you joined a team.
Correct.
Who, he was your original, I guess, mentor. Getting in, if you want to use that word. And he probably, had a very favorable deal for himself in that deal. Do you want to talk about that, or do you not want to get into that?
Well, yeah, we won't name drop, so it's fine. I was new to real estate, and actually there were parts of it that were very fair. So it was 30% split, which is really fair because I've heard of other teams where you're giving up 50%. Unfortunately, for 30%, I wasn't getting anything. So I was only losing 30% of my own deals because we didn't have any leads. And to be fair, that person had never run a team before. So I think it was a learning curve for both of us. And I was getting 15% off of their deals. But the weird part was I was doing 85% of their deals, like pretty much everything besides negotiating the repairs and showing up to the closing holding this sold sign.
Would you say like borderline license assistant, or even worse than that?
We'll define that.
So a licensed assistant is somebody who is your assistant, going to do all your dirty work for you, do your paperwork, go get the lock boxes, go do all this.
Yes, but on a percentage base. I should have taken an hourly
Yeah, you
rate
probably
for
should have
that.
got like an hourly wage plus a percentage. Right?
I always look at the silver lining. I made all of my newbie mistakes on their transactions. I was wasting and dealing on my own deals. I was like, oh, I forgot about that washer and dryer and it cost them. So I don't know. That was a whole different
So doing
story.
your newbie mistakes, what's your biggest newbie mistake?
Washer and dryer. Forgetting that. Oh, and I don't even really think that was my mistake. I wrote the contract up and it wasn't in the inclusions. And they must have told the person that it was. And then they argued with me that they weren't going to pay me because they had to buy them a washer and dryer. But I was like, I didn't know you told them the washer and dryer were included. I mean, it's on the MLS. So that, I would say other newbie mistakes would be spending a lot of time with buyers without like pushing them to get a pre-approval because I felt like they would be offended. But what I've learned is if somebody is very against getting a pre-approval, there's the best question you can ask is, do you know your credit score? Because if they don't, it's probably bad. And then you should really be like, oh, well, we don't want any. I'd hate to see you fall in love with a house and then find out you can't buy it. It would just be heartbreaking, right? Because I can't be like, I would hate to waste my time taking you can't even buy a house. So it's like the nice way to say it. And it does, and in all reality, it takes a lot of time away from my other clients that are legitimate buyers. So, I mean,
it's not always what you say, it's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I always put that like when I'm talking to clients, or I don't really deal with a whole lot of clients anymore these days, but I always would say like, I don't want to waste your time or my time. So let's make sure that we could do this, right? Let's make sure this is possible. Now, I want to talk about this. So you obviously, I would say your initial setup maybe wasn't ideal.
No.
What would you change if you were just getting your license today and starting over? What would you change?
I wouldn't change anything about anything in my life, because there's a lot of things that like taking until I was 28 to get sober, right? Like sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I would have got that sooner. But all of those things taught me and shaped me into being here now. If I was going to advise a new agent, I would just say, you know, make sure that what you're giving up for your team is worth what you're getting in return. I mean, knowledge is invaluable. So even if you're not getting like an astronomical amount of leads, if you're being really handheld and taught, that's invaluable. I mean, I feel like a lot of what I learned was through trial and error and from you, really. I mean, you should have been getting the 30% of my deals, because I mean, I think the first deal I ever wrote, I called you crying and it took me 2 hours. And it's so funny because now I think about it and I can like put an offer together in 10 minutes and I'm like, this used to make me cry.
So we'll fast forward a little bit to March of 2020. It was a dark time in our industry, and we were shut down. We were the only state in the state of Pennsylvania, or the only state in the United States of America that was not allowed to do real estate, right? We were not essential. And probably a week or two after we got that notice, I got the notice that the team that you were on was leaving. And I remember my thoughts, which was, okay, I'm getting some negative energy potentially out of the brokerage. Okay, great. You know, because there was some things going on behind the scenes and some head butting and stuff like that. But I remember calling Kristen, who's our director of operations, and saying like, I hope Lindsay's gonna stay, right? Like Lindsay's got to stay. I've helped her a lot. Like she's gonna stay. And then like I called Lindsay and I was like, hey, I heard about the team and just wanted to check in with you. And she's like, yeah, I'm going.
It's that thought that the grass is greener.
Yeah.
And so I would never leave Deacon Hoover now, but at the time I just didn't know what I had here. Because I went to another brokerage, and again, I won't say any names. And that team eventually fell apart over really more personal things. And the broker there was like, yeah, this probably isn't a good fit for you. And then I came back here and sold $7.5 million in real estate the following year. And I was like, I probably could have hung there, but I'm glad I came back.
Well, I mean, I think there was another short little
Oh,
stint
yeah.
somewhere.
Well,
in there.
middle area there.
I know your story too well, Lindsay. You're not getting away from
That's why I
this.
told you I wanted to listen. That's why I kept saying that.
So yeah, it's like whenever you date someone like briefly and you're like, no, that didn't actually happen. Like I don't have to claim that. It wasn't even too fun. I had no leads and I went to a different team where I got entirely too many leads. And I was like, coming from customer service, that's always number one for me. It's not about just, one and done, on to the next. And there was a point where I was advised, I was like, hey, I'm getting entirely too many leads. And it was like, well, everyone has to take the leads and you have to work them. And I was like, well, what do I do? I'm like booked with scheduled with showings. And they're like, well, cancel on the client you already have and meet your new client because your old client already wants to work with you. And I'm like, yeah, but if I cancel on them, I don't think they're going to continue to want to work with me. So that's kind of like shooting myself in the foot, because I've already invested time with this client. They're pre-approved. I know that they want to work with me. I'm basically tripping over a dollar to pick up a dime if I go chase down this client that might not want to work with me or might not be able to buy. And I'm not saying that strategy is necessarily wrong. It's just not the way that I wanted to do business. So, and at that time, I think that it was August of like 2020 and everybody was going crazy in real estate. And I actually remember deciding that I had talked to a few other agents that I really respected, and they were like, you can do this on your own. And I was like, we didn't know what 2021 was going to be like. So it was a bit of a gamble because I sold my cleaning business so that I could entirely devote myself to real estate. And I went completely solo in August of 2020. And I had around like $3 million in sales at that point. And I was like, YOLO, like it's going to work. So there's I found out it's not a Tony Robbins quote. It's somebody back in history a long time ago said that if you want to take the islands, you have to burn the boats. Like, so you have to just completely commit. And if I can always go back to cleaning, but like having it was kind of a distraction at that point from completely dedicating myself to real estate, because managing people that you're paying when post pandemic, I would have had to pay them more, but at the time it was like $12 to $15 an hour remotely is very difficult because there's low motivation for them to do a good job. And I was like, I need to completely dedicate myself to real estate if I want to be a full-time real estate agent. And the cleaning business could have been extremely lucrative had I had the time to do both, because it was already doing really well. And I had a very good reputation and I had a lot of repeat customers and regular customers, but it was like, I have no passion for this. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like, man, I really want to own a cleaning company forever. I really want to tell people that they're cleaning toilets wrong. Like, and that's really a real thing. It's like you have to lift the lid up and you have to clean under the seat. Like you can't just clean the bowl. You have to clean like that back little part, right? And I got tired of explaining that to people. It was like exhausting. I was like, I'm making so little compared to what I'm making in real estate, and it's so frustrating. And so I just jumped all the way in.
So I probably one of the best things I did since I, have owned a brokerage is I heard through the grapevine that Lindsay switched to another team. And then I just picked up the phone. I'm like, Linz, what's going on? And then she told me, that things weren't going the greatest, the other team. And I was like, just come in and talk to me. We talked and I was just like, you got this, right? Like you can do this. And we made a game plan and you just executed. And one of the things I talked to Sean about is that like there's no rhyme or reason for why one person is successful and why one person's not successful, or maybe just average.
There is one reason.
Yeah, it's hustle, right? It's hustle. That's the one thing I can't tell when I sit down with a new agent or an experienced agent, whatever, if they got the hustle. I just can't tell. But you have the hustle and you just went out and crushed it. So in 2021 was your first full-time year in real estate, right? Like
full-time. Yeah.
Not on a team, just you. Just you.
Even just not having like a second job. Yeah.
Right. No crutch.
And you did.
Well, if you include off market stuff, 7.5 million.
How many transactions is that?
46. Yeah, that's including the off market stuff, 46.
Yeah. So you made well over 6 figures. We don't need to get into specific details.
I also did my first 2 burrs that year too.
What is a burr, Lindsay?
Basically, I don't remember exactly what all these
buy, renovate, refinance, repeat.
Oh, I thought I had to rent in at some point in there too. I did.
Maybe there's an extra R you can rent.
There is an R. You're missing that. So
it's funny because you're like, say it with me.
Say it with me, Lindsay.
It's definitely burr, but you forgot an R.
So those ended up being very lucrative for me. And it's funny because like I was telling, so one was my house that I already owned. And then one was a house that I bought off my dad. So, I mean, obviously I got a really great deal on both properties. And it was a two-way street because my dad needed to do seller financing with me on, he signed one over to me because I had been living there for 10 years and paying for everything. So I owned the house I lived in and I had to do probably over the life that I lived there. And then before I rented it, it was probably a total of about $40,000 in renovations because I'd like replaced the roof, the HVAC, the hot water tank, the floors twice. So the washer and dryer both died right before I moved out. I'm like, are you kidding me? But he needed to seller finance the other one because of, like medical, he can only make so much per year. So, I guess he could have probably got a wholesaler to do something like that. But I mean, I was already starting to invest So I got a really good deal on those. And then it's funny because I obviously know a lot of people in the area where I used to live, and I tell them what I get for rent, and they're like, what? Like, yeah, that pandemic rent. Kicking them out, or well, it's going to be like 5 years before I raise their rent because it just worked out really, really well. So that was good.
I just had a conversation with an appraiser yesterday about this because I was doing a refinance, and he was blown away by my rents that I'm getting, and I'm just like, yeah, but my insurance rates have tripled. My repairs have gone up. Everything's more expensive, right? So it all works out. We're paying more, but the tenants are paying more, so it's kind of balancing out.
Yep.
So you had an awesome 2021.
Yes.
And you had an awesome 2022.
What you do in 2022?
Close to six. I mean, I also went on, what was it? 8.
I was wondering if you were going to do it or if I was going to have to bring it up.
I went on 6 vacations and 2 mini trips. So I went to Wyoming for 5 days, Colorado for 5 days, Peru for 10 days, Colorado again for 6 days, Oregon for 10 days. And then,
Aruba.
yeah, that's it. Okay. I went to Aruba with my mom. Have you ever traveled international or at all, but internationally, especially with somebody my mom had never been on an airplane before.
Oh boy.
No.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
No.
It was quite an experience. So in Aruba, you go through customs on both sides in Aruba.
Mhm.
So it takes a little bit longer. And she was like, I read it takes 3 hours, but I had been to Aruba before. So I was like, I don't remember it taking 3 hours. Like, I feel like I would have remembered that. So our flight left it was like 4:45 when our flight left, and my mom wanted to get there at 11. Like, Mom. I don't know if anybody's been to Aruba, but their airport is very small. There's not just, you're just hanging out. They don't have a lounge, or not that I'm not that baller yet that I'm hanging out in the airport lounge, but
You don't have to be baller. Just get an American
credit
Express
card.
Platinum
Yeah.
card. That's all I have. Like,
I got the AA Advantage card. But
it probably includes it.
I don't
Almost all of those cards do. Like all
Yeah.
the travel cards, they all include it. Because I do it too. I go rolling into the Pittsburgh airport, and I sit there and drink my free cappuccino and eat my snacks, and don't have anybody like bugging me. It's comfortable seats. It's awesome.
Oh, I just found out about like upgrading to first class like the day of.
Don't,
Oh my
don't
God.
do it. Don't do it.
Why?
Don't upgrade to first class, because now you're gonna be stuck paying for first class the rest of the show. Seriously, it's my problem.
Yeah, that's so, because like I was like, ooh, look at that. I got armrests on both sides for the first leg of the flight, but the second leg, I'm like, I like had my computer. I have like a big screen laptop too, which is like the worst for flights because I'm like this, and my laptop is like on the other person's tray.
I'm sorry, I gotta bang out some contracts. Right.
Hold on.
Yeah. I have a listing I have to do. They're very important person. Not important enough to be in first class. But that was the leg of the trip to Jackson, Wyoming. So there's a lot of actual ballers out there. Highest per capita of billionaires in the United States.
Really?
Oh, incredible tax benefits. No state income, no capital gains.
Okay.
No inheritance.
Know where I'm going when I retire.
I think they have no transfer tax either, which like for in Pittsburgh, you're like, what?
Yeah, the city of Pittsburgh's crazy. We're up to like almost like 5% transfer tax now.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's over 5%. Come on, you guys are
Oh,
active
man.
right now.
Well, I mean, on
It's like 2 point something
5.
per side, right?
2.5.
Yeah.
So it's
side.
5%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, Mike, it's funny explaining that to your clients. And they're like, well, what's it for? And I was like, because they can.
Because they make the rules.
I don't know where it goes, but because they can.
We wouldn't be doing this interview a justice if we didn't talk about the fact that real estate's not always rainbows and sunshine.
Oh man, you're bringing this up.
Right? And the one thing that I have grown to admire about you, Lindsay, is that you don't hold things back, and you just say stuff on the spot. And it's been at least 4 or 5 times, if not more now, that you've either told me you're quitting real estate,
So at this hour, what are you doing?
Well, if you asked me this morning, I was quitting.
So you told me you're quitting real estate. You told me you're going back to bartending.
Yeah, I would never do that.
You told me that you're moving to Wyoming, I believe. Maybe
After what she
Colorado?
just said, wouldn't you?
Maybe Colorado. Was that another place you're moving to?
Oh, I'm moving everywhere.
And then my favorite one. So, I do a monthly coaching session with our, probably top 15 or so agents. And in our most recent, no, not our most recent. So in November's coaching, Lindsay told me she's going out of business. She's like,
Yeah.
my pipeline's
Right.
dry. I'm going out of business. It's over. It was a good run while it lasted. Right.
I have $1 million in closings set up for next month.
Yeah. Then fast forward like a month and a half later, we meet again and her pipeline's completely full again. And I'm just
Right.
like, I guess you're not going out of business, huh, Linz?
No. It turns out it was slow. The
In
exact
December,
same time that
November.
it's slow for everybody else. Today I was quitting real estate because the city of Pittsburgh has decided sometime in history that they should put sewer lines 28 feet deep. So that was why I was quitting real estate today. But we may have a creative solution. So you have to, I don't want to speak on anything until, you don't count your chickens before they hatch. But I think we have a creative solution and going to potentially save my clients like $50,000.
Should we ask now or save that for later?
I don't know what you're talking about. So go ahead.
About our creative solution.
Oh, I don't want to speak on it until I find out.
See?
I don't want to curse it.
See?
I don't want to curse it because it's been, well, we had to find out if we could do this. Then we had to find out if we could do this. Then we have to find out if we can do this. And I'm waiting. So we had to call this guy who had to call this guy who now has to call this guy. And we're waiting for a call back for this guy to call back, this guy to call back, this guy to call back my plumber. So there's a long game of telephone, but we've made it through 3 hurdles. So we just have this last one, and I'm hoping it'll be a good story if it works out. If not, we'll never talk about it again.
Well, I will say that the reason why, homeowners don't sell their own houses 99% of the time is because it's just crazy. Like you get something under contract, which is probably the easiest part of the transaction in most cases. And then behind the scenes, there's just a whole bunch of crap flying around and you have to try and, settle it all down and figure it out. And, I'm selling a house to a friend of mine right now. And not my personal house, but I'm just selling a house to a friend of mine. I represented him. So it's like my first transaction, like 6 months. Woo. And like I didn't even realize when we walked through it, the garage is an integral garage, but it's not separated from the basement. Like so it's basically the basement with a garage door on it. Right. Which is not a legal not a legal garage at all. Cause it's not fire rated and it's,
Where was this at?
It's in McDonald.
I saw one just a few days ago. That's why I'm asking.
But I didn't notice it on the spot somehow. I just like totally blanked when I showed them.
What's the car in the garage?
No, there was not.
It's a little bit more excuse.
But we were talking about, this one actually has a garage and it's nice because a lot of stuff in McDonald just doesn't. And
they're going to make them put up a wall to separate it.
Yeah, well, that's what we were trying to do until the house didn't appraise.
Oh,
right.
Okay. Well.
So then we had to take the money that was going to go towards building out the garage and just take it off the purchase price. And then now the insurance company's like, hey, there's like a pending claim from 2 years ago. Like, well, we can't insure this property until we figure out what's going on with this. It's an absolute nightmare behind the scenes. And that's why we have jobs. That's why we are all employed.
What did you tell me one time? 85% of people involved in real estate related lawsuits are someone that was unrepresented in a transaction. It's something like, it's crazy high.
That's a crazy number. I never heard that.
I don't know if I told you that.
Maybe I made that up.
Maybe,
Maybe someone says they can do it for you.
It very well might have been me because I do read interesting statistics all the time. And then it sometimes just happens to be around when the time I'm talking to somebody and I'll use it and then I'll completely forget about the statistic. Right. So, the simple fact of the matter is we wanted to have you in here and we wanted to share your story because it's such an awesome story. And I'm so proud of you. And you are, like literally people like you and you specifically are part of the reason why we have a great company and it's so much fun. And I enjoy coming to work every day because I get to hang out with you guys and help you guys through all your problems and listen to Lindsay the next time she tells me she's quitting real estate and all that.
So
I have to agree that we have a really awesome culture here, because one of the other agencies that I was at, like, some days, you know, you're not meeting with clients, so you're wearing leggings, and I like got reprimanded, and I was like, I'm not your employee. You know, I can wear leggings here.
You could show up in your pajamas here. I don't think anybody would care.
With
You
your
know,
dog.
with your dog.
Only in her pajamas, which has actually happened.
Yeah. Matching pajamas.
Oh no,
Oh,
those
geez.
are hoodies. We have
Oh,
Those are
matching
hoodies,
hoodies, I'm
hoodies,
sorry.
okay.
matching tie-dye fuzzy hoodies. Yes. Not should not surprise anybody that knows me.
Sean, do you have any further questions?
Last question, and I know this is a minute by minute answer. What's the future hold? That's why I said minute by minute.
Yeah, second by second.
Right.
So I'm not quitting real estate.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to get more into investing. Having the passive income is really nice, because I like to spend money. As it turns out, I have expensive taste. Not really, but I like to travel a lot. So definitely in terms of my personal life, more, or I don't know if I can really add more traveling, but an equivalent amount of traveling. In terms of career wise, I've definitely been focusing on increasing my average sales price. So I've done a little bit more target marketing in a little higher dollar neighborhoods, and I would never turn down any sales, because to be honest with you, I just closed with a buyer that bought maybe 150. It was $150,000, and it was a really nice house for the price. And when we started working together, he had no credit. It wasn't that he had bad credit; it was that he had no credit, and he could only buy it at like $80,000 because he had to put 20% down. And I mean, I could have pushed him to buy something at that price point and used up all of his money, but I was like, why don't we open up a credit card, start working on your credit. And then he was able to get some grants. He ended up only bringing maybe like 25% of what he was originally going to have to bring down, and got a better house. Those are the deals that mean a lot to me. So I'm definitely not only going to be selling Sunset. Although that's why I wear this blouse. So it's like, look at me. I'm like a highfalutin agent over here. But yeah, so the same or less amount of work for the same paycheck would be great.
You ever gonna start a team?
I know that I probably not.
Licensed assistant?
That would probably be a good first step for me. The anxiety of like being a meal provider for somebody. Obviously, right, you were saying somebody else has to have their own hustle, and you can't really know that until you start working with them.
Well, you've seen the good and the bad of, well, I don't know if you've seen the good on a team, but you've definitely seen the bad of a team.
Oh, I know how I wouldn't run a team.
Right.
For sure. But like feeling, because I know the way that I am, like I would take it personal if somebody was on my team and wasn't able to be successful. I would take it as a failure of my own, even though like logically and I'm like cognizant of the fact that like as long as I'm doing everything I can to help them, and I know that I would, that's not my fault, but I would probably take it personal, and then I'd be like more worried about their career than my own. So you're
speaking my language.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally, I would say a large percentage of our agents are successful quicker than the average, or than the market. But when I have somebody who just doesn't take off, or I take it personal, and I start wondering, am I doing something wrong? And I start, like, what can I do? And I start trying to help them more. But some people they just don't have it. And it's like, they have to have it. They have to have the hustle, the heart. I don't know.
The
drive, the want. And
I think too, that you kind of have to have like the right personality for real estate too, because you have to be on some level charismatic, which is my former team leader we were talking about earlier was very charismatic on a surface level. So he did well. But if you're like not doing the right thing, ultimately it will not lead you to success. So I think you have to have the right personality, and I take things personal too, which isn't great for real estate, because like if a house doesn't sell, and even if it's not my fault, not if a house doesn't sell, but if something goes wrong in a transaction, like I definitely get very emotionally involved. Especially I have clients that are my friends now. Like I have a client that comes over for game night at like once a month.
Nice.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That just shows who you are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then there's clients that I'm like, if I never see you again,
I think we all have that.
I'll have a few of them.
they call and I get anxiety. I'm like, oh no.
Oh, some other time, Sean, we'll have to do an episode of my worst client situation ever.
You interviewed one of mine, so
Oh, and that's funny. I always say my Alex is my best and worst client ever.
Yeah, oh, he 100% is. Yeah, list this property for sale. You get a contract. No, I don't want to sell this property anymore. You know, yeah, 100%.
I'm like, yeah, you can't just do that. You can't just not sell your house now. I'm like, oh.
Well, we couldn't have had a better second guest, and we're so happy you decided to join us. It took a couple weeks to get you in here, but we finally did.
Well, I was traveling.
of course.
I'm in Snowford.
Actually, I think you came back the day before and things just fell through.
I don't remember what happened, but I do want to let you guys know, not only am I a real estate agent, I'm now a snowboarder.
A snowboarder
Nice.
and a
Yeah.
mountain climber.
Not yet. That's in May.
Oh, okay.
And a yoga
in-
trainer.
And a
Oh,
yoga
yeah.
trainer.
Yeah, and a yoga teacher.
Deacon Hoover Yoga.
Deacon Hoover Yoga. That's the culture that we have. Better than anywhere.
And it was legit Deacon Hoover Yoga because it was the Deacon family and the Hoover family showed up for yoga for your first time.
But it was honestly better because I was like so nervous. And then when everybody that showed up, I was like, oh, I'm cool. It's fine. It's fine. I also realized that we're going to do an introduction to yoga class next time.
That'd probably be a better way to start.
Yeah.
I will say that Olivia absolutely loved it. And then, you know, I was just like, well, I'm never bringing Roman again. But because he just sat there the whole time. I told Cassie, I was like, I'm pretty sure he just sat there and stared at Lindsay the whole time. He wasn't acting out, per se.
No,
But
he was wonderful.
yeah, he was just sitting there staring at Lindsay. I was like, well, okay, at least I know he's into girls.
Well, he's what, 8 now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's gonna have a girlfriend soon.
Yeah, probably. He might already have one. He gets shy anytime you ask him about that. But
Oh, that's funny.
anyways, thanks, Lindsay. You're awesome. Keep up the good work. Don't go out of
Excellent.
business. Don't
I'm
quit.
not
Don't retire
not
yet.
today.
All right, we're gonna sign off. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.